Hello, and welcome back to another one of my quarantine talks related to mental health and issues that may arise during quarantine. I've been a little bit neglectful, I think, maybe in that I haven't been giving as much attention to the flip side of anxiety. At least that's how I view it. The flip side of anxiety being sadness, melancholy. People love the word depression. Uh, I find depression to be one of those powerful labels that sometimes can be damning in a way. That when you're labeled depressed, sometimes it can be really hard to dig out of that. I just say, people are sad sometimes. It's not so abnormal. Sometimes we're deeply sad. And sad has kind of a continuum to it. And I like that because it's not either you're depressed or not depressed. It's you're sad, you're more sad, you're deeply sad. And like most things, and relating to a video I did last, life has a lot of gradation, a lot of gray. And so I prefer sad over depressed. So the perspective I wanted to kind of use today to talk about it is kind of a cognitive behavioral perspective related to a triangle. In cognitive behavioral theory, one of the ways they try to kind of conceptualize what feeds depression is what they call it's a very fancy word, the cognitive triad of depression. I like that kind of stuff. So the cognitive triad of depression is it takes these three kind of conceptions in a way to reinforce each other in such a way that you can kind of work yourself into a pretty sad state. One side of that triangle being negative thoughts about yourself, the next being negative thoughts about the future, and then negative thoughts about the world. I prefer the simpler description that goes something like, I suck, the world sucks, and it ain't getting better. And when you find yourself into that kind of self-reinforcing loop, it can be pretty hard to dig out. The good news is, and I've never heard anybody else do this kind of interdisciplinary look at depression, but if you've ever studied fire science, and I'm sure maybe one or two of you have, fire science talks about the fire triangle. And the fire triangle needs fuel, oxygen, and an ignition source. And so when I think about this cognitive triad of depression, it's not so dissimilar. With the fire triangle, you just need to kick one of those out, right? Take away the ignition, take away the oxygen, or don't give something to burn. The cognitive triad of depression, it kind of helps too if you can kind of even if you don't get all three, if you can kind of work on one, because sometimes, especially now, it can be difficult to be overly hopeful, at least short term, around the virus and things like that. And sometimes the world can seem pretty hopeless at times recently. So that leaves the self part. But all of those can be worked on. I think the truth is we will ultimately work our way through this virus, that we do have a pretty good chance of saving the human race and the human species, and hopefully all the other non-human animals that inhabit the planet with us. But we do also have a lot of power on, or a lot of ability to focus on ourselves and try to get at that angle of, the I suck part. Depression can be, and sadness can be pretty entrenched. I think it was Winston Churchill who said his longest, most consistent mistress was the black dog of depression. I might misquote him there, but that's how I remember it. And that's sad. It's sad. The truth is, if we get sad, we can dig out of it. You know, a lot of the cognitive distortions related to anxiety can become just as important and related to depression. But after we work on that cognitive triad, we can apply one more cognitive distortion to that perspective, filtering. Filtering is kind of what it sounds like. When you get into that sad state, you start to have a difficult time seeing the good stuff. Now, maybe you're having a hard time seeing the good stuff about the world. Maybe you're having a hard time seeing the good stuff that could happen, and you're more than likely also having a hard time seeing the good things about yourself. So it can also be really useful when you find yourself into that filtering point to start kind of working on that journal idea again, having a journal and trying to note the things that are going well, that you do like about yourself, that you are hopeful for in the world. And slowly, with those kind of perspectives, try to dig your way out. A lot of times when you're very sad, it's like being in the bottom of a hole, almost like a well. And if you imagine you're at the bottom of the well, when you look up, there's not a whole lot of light. And it's hard to imagine that there's much there. But as you slowly dig your way out, the light becomes brighter. Those kind of metaphors can be helpful because when you're in that place, it's hard to be hopeful. The other one I've always liked is, because you oftentimes when you're sad, you feel kind of paralyzed, kind of unable to take action. And it's kind of like related to this relation to poker. When they have a saying in poker that says basically, scared money can't win, meaning that if you're too scared to bet, you'll never win the game, right? Well, when you're down on your luck, when you're feeling pretty sad, it's like you've got 3 chips, and you're holding on to them, and you don't really feel like you have that emotional bandwidth, that emotional reserve to risk taking the chances on the things that can get you out of or start moving you out of that well of sadness. So that idea of like, hey, I need to do something, even little things, they add up over time. So I guess in summary, let's try to kick out one of those, ideally all 3 pieces of that cognitive triad, right? I suck, the world sucks, and it ain't getting better. If you find yourself doing those things, let's try to start picking the parts of it that might not be completely non-distorted. So let's look for the distorted thoughts and kind of adjust those into something not necessarily not Pollyannic, but just reasonable. And a journal can help with that. Watch out for filtering, and that should kind of start you get you going the right way. And I think that'll be it. That's going to be the end of this video for now, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Stay strong.